following is a presentation of CBC Sports.
The Ottawa River is 1,271 kilometers long and drains 146,000 square kilometers of Ontario and Quebec. Today, it is the centerpiece of a race that runs just over 42 kilometers. From the National Capital Region winding through Gatineau and Ottawa, ING presents the 34th running of the Ottawa Marathon. As the sun beats down on the nation's capital, the best runners in the world gather, pounding hearts, pounding feet, as they prepare to do battle in the most grueling race of all, 42 kilometers to determine who has what it takes to win. Two defending champions are back. Can they retain their crowns against the deep field gathered here in Ottawa? Hello everyone and welcome to our coverage of the ING Ottawa Marathon. I'm Erin Paul. Sunny skies here in the nation's capital today, light winds and cool, ideal temperature for these runners. Today's race will showcase the best in the world. More than 150 elite athletes from nearly 50 countries are here, many of them hoping to qualify for the Beijing Olympics. Both defending champions are back, but will be pushed by newcomers. On the men's side, two-time winner David Cheruiyot of Kenya will try to defend his title against fellow countrymen Peter Bohr and David Rutu. And on the women's side, Ludmila Korchagina of Canada is trying to become the only athlete to win this title 5 times. To do so, she'll have to hold off fellow Canadians Nicole Stevenson and Tara Quinn Smith, as well as a couple of strong contenders from Ethiopia. The ING Ottawa Marathon course begins at City Hall, passes Parliament Hill, and crosses the Chaudière Bridge over the Ottawa River into Gatineau. It winds through the city of Gatineau for about 7 kilometers and crosses back into Ottawa over the Alexandria Bridge. For another 10 kilometers, runners pass through Rockcliffe, New Edinburgh, and emerge back into the downtown area. The final leg of the race follows the Rideau Canal out and back to the finish. We've just learned that last year's women's winner, Ludmila Korchagina, has withdrawn from the race with a hamstring injury, which means the ING Ottawa Marathon will have a new women's champion. With the call of today's race, here are Mark Lee and Michael Smith.
Thank you, Aaron, and an absolutely gorgeous day here in the nation's capital for the ING Marathon. More than 8,000 runners heading over the start line here on Elgin Street, moving north, and we'll go by Parliament Hill before heading over the Ottawa River to Gatineau. And this race also serving as the Canadian Championship, Michael, and a last chance qualifier for any Canadian hoping to go to Beijing.
Well, a lot of focus, and you can see a sea of athletes running up this initial hill. 8,000 competitors here and perfect conditions, 8 degrees Celsius. That is absolutely perfect for all of these marathoners to take advantage of. Of course, it will warm up as we go through 20, 30, up to 42K, but right now, these athletes will take full advantage of these very good conditions.
You see the pace setters in the blue bibs running out front of this lead group. Wearing number 81 is John Etati of Kenya, and in 91, Moses Keegan, also of Kenya. They have been hired and are being paid by the race organizers here in Ottawa to set a pace which will at least start at about a 2:09 to a 2:09:30 marathon.
Well, that is so key to have these pacemakers involved. Quite often an athlete will have a lot of adrenaline off the initial stages of a race, and these athletes more than anything will help hold them back from themselves. Here you can see a good group of athletes running through the initial stages. Again, great conditions for these athletes to take full advantage of.
In the blue bib wearing 23, that's Gite Macharia. He's just 3 months removed from winning his Canadian citizenship. He's from the Congo, running with the Canadian pack. Andrew Smith, there's Tara Quinn Smith, the husband and wife team in this race. Tara Quinn Smith of Toronto running her very first marathon here today. The Canadians at least opening this marathon here in Ottawa in a pack together.
Well, that's a wealth of talent within that family. Tara Quinn Smith is a huge talent running her first marathon here. Here you can see Parliament Hill. These athletes, again, very stretched out. The top-seeded athletes, of course, get to be closest to the start line, but you can see that full sea of athletes extending quite a ways along this drive.
David Chariot of Kenya is the defending champion and course record holder. He's back to defend here today. Ludmila Korchagina, the course record holder and defending champion, as Aaron told us, a late scratch just before the start of the race with a hamstring and hip problem. Nonetheless, an elite field assembled by elite race coordinator Manny Rodriguez.
David Chariot is very experienced with his course, having won it twice. He was there also in 2006. He was fourth across the line. So he knows what it takes to win here, and even though he may not have the best speed, he seems to have the best tactics, and when it comes down to a kick, he's shown that he can stay with anybody, if not beat anybody.
And headlining the women's field here today in Ottawa is 31-year-old Esme Lagzoui of Morocco. She's right in the middle of that pack, making her marathon debut. She's a 10K specialist. Also running 21-year-old Kebabush Haile wearing 9F. She's from Kenya in that pack, joined by Yeshi Isaias of Ethiopia and Russia's Elza Kiriva. The standards to qualify for the Olympics in this last chance are pretty stiff, Michael.
Very difficult standards. You can see the men's A standard of 2:12 and the women's A standard of 2:22 are considerably faster than the IAAF standard. But Canada has made the decision that if they send an athlete to the Olympic Games or World Championships, they would like them to finish in the top 8 or top 16 in the field.
And what would an Olympic year be without a controversy over qualifying standards?
I try not to focus on that because it's a real negative aspect of running, and it gets involved in politics, and people ask me, well, you know, you've made the minimum standard and are you going to file a lawsuit, etc. And that's just not my style. I just want to run the best I can, and if Canada's ashamed to send someone who's qualified but hasn't made the higher standard, then I think that's Canada's loss and not the athlete's loss.
So Matthew McInnes of Ottawa makes his point loud and clear. 2 hours, 14 minutes, a withering standard for him to make it to Beijing. The lead pack here making its way across the Chaudière Bridge, across the Ottawa River into Gatineau, Quebec. And right now, Michael, this lead pack of about 20 runners are on a pace of about a 2:09:30 marathon.
Very strong pace in this initial stage of this race, but of course that will undulate as we move forward. A very good course here. It doesn't have a lot of elevation gain and loss through the duration of the course, but there will be some hills to contend with.
The Canadians in a second group. There's Macharia in blue running with McInnes and Smith and the others. They have dropped now about 50 meters back of the lead group as the rest of the marathoners snake their way across the parkway and head for the Chaudière Bridge under the bright sunshine here in Ottawa. The lead women still in their group. That's Esme Lagzoui of Morocco out front of Haile of Kenya and Isaias of Ethiopia. And you can see off their shoulder one of the pace setters in this course. They will have pace setters for the women as well, with times on their back, which will let them know what time they can expect to finish the marathon based on that pace.
Well, all of these athletes have a keen sense of pace, but it is so advantageous in a competitive environment like this to have a pace setter as well. You can see that Esme does have a very smooth stride. She is a 10K runner, so you can expect her to be in the lead in the initial stages, but the latter stages will be the toughest transition for her, this being her first marathon.
Yes, you've mentioned Esme, a 10K specialist. She has the world record over 8 kilometers and is making her marathon debut here in Ottawa.
All of these athletes will have used a lot of periodization throughout the year to peak for this event, particularly, especially during an Olympic year. You want to have some of your best times put forward before the Olympic Games, of course, just to qualify. But if they do, in fact, qualify here, they will have a lot of time to prepare once again leading into Beijing.
There's Enoch Matai in the yellow jersey, just behind the pace setters, Itati and Keegan. He was handpicked by Manny Rodriguez to challenge the defending champion and fellow countryman David Chariot of Kenya.
Enoch Matai is very fit. He was a pacer in London and actually ran through 30K in 1:31, which puts him on a 2:09 pace. So he felt 30K went very well in London and really feels that there's something big and he can actually break 2:10, which is why he had his agent, even though there was flight complications, he said, nope, I got to get there because I got to race.
Most of the elite runners, Michael, really enjoy coming to this Ottawa course. It's not too hilly, Very scenic, and this may well be one of the hilliest part of the course as they go through the hills of Gatineau.
That's right. The first half of this race does have a few hills to contend with, but the city of Ottawa lies between 70 and 100 meters above sea level, so a lot of thick, rich oxygen here, very close to sea level, but not a lot of undulation. But the latter half of this race is relatively flat, so we'll see these athletes really put some tactics together if they want to really push the pace through this hilly area, or have something left in reserve for the flat parts near the end of the race.
Here we are going through downtown Gatineau, uphill, and the pace has slowed already. 3 minutes 11 seconds from 4 to 5 kilometers, so the group feeling the effects of the hills early as they make the turn and head downhill through Gatineau. But as you mentioned, the high altitude here relative to where many of these Kenyans and Ethiopians train, they train at altitudes as high as 7,000 feet above sea level. So when they come to places like Ottawa, it's all good.
That's right. Anything at sea level is excellent to have for these marathon runners, and you can see these hills, again, taking advantage of them.
The lead racers are on the last leg of the run through Gatineau, past the Museum of Civilization at about the 10K mark. Now, in addition to the marathon, there are many other events going on. It's really race weekend here in Ottawa. And for the first time, more than 30,000 people are participating in the various events. After the break, the marathon will continue through the tree-lined streets of Rockcliffe, past the Governor General's residence, the many foreign embassies, and of course, 24 Sussex Drive. The ING Ottawa Marathon continues after this.
ING Ottawa Marathon on CBC is brought to you by ING. This marathon has hit its most torrid pace as they come back across the Alexandria Bridge to Ottawa, Michael, through 9K. The last kilometer split 2 minutes 51 seconds. 27 minutes 30 seconds through 9K.
Well, that is a great injection of speed. Whenever you can go under 3 minutes for a 1K split, you know that is very, very fast. If you're running around 3 minutes to 3 minutes 10 seconds, you're on 2 hour 10-minute pace for a marathon. So that is a very quick kilometer split. But some of these men have that strategy and tactics in the back of their mind where they do in fact want to inject that speed.
There's a look at the Alexandria Bridge spanning the Ottawa River as the athletes make their way back to the nation's capital. And the split now, the Canadian pack, as we look at Andrew Smith, has fallen about 400 meters behind the leaders, a group of about 20, led by David Chariot, the defending champion from Kenya, and Enoch Matei, also of Kenya. We mentioned that Olympic qualifying standards on the line for these Canadians, but there's also a fair bit of money, over $100,000 at stake today.
You know, elite runners can make a living on this circuit. Today's top prize of $15,000 is a considerable amount for almost any athlete. And for elite athletes in Canada, of course, funding is a going concern. But for some of the athletes here, the typical life of the cash-strapped athlete chasing their dreams on a borrowed dime is a thing of the past. It is early morning and these athletes are hard at work. And for them, this is their work. They are a select group of marathoners that are essentially being paid to train.
I look at it as a job, you know what I mean? Like, Brooks, they're our boss, and, you know, we're here to produce. We've got to show up to practice every day and, you know, put the mileage in, put the hard work in, and, you know, they're helping us, so why not try and do our best to, you know, show their name off well.
He's referring to the Brooks Marathon Project, a program which houses and trains runners with potential to one day be Olympians. It is the brainchild of Brooks co-founder and former champion marathoner Mike Dion.
As we see the leader, Mike Dion, he realizes that he has won his third National Capital Marathon.
Our business has been good to us, and we wanted to give back to the running community. And all the things came together. We bought a house in High Park, about a mile from just north of here, And it's a good size house, and we paid $1 million for it, just over $1 million, and hopefully it won't go down in value.
8 athletes live in the house, including husband and wife team Andrew Smith and Tara Quinn Smith, who, with the help of this project, can live almost expense-free while making names for themselves in Canada. In April, they both won the Canadian Half Marathon Championships.
We pretty much all want to see how good we can become, and it's having the project and having all the support in place that it's giving us is pretty much going to allow us to be able to do that. Like, it's the perfect situation. Having the training partners is really the biggest thing.
The other major reason for their success, say the athletes, is their coach, the legendary Hugh Cameron.
He had a dynasty of runners in the 80s, and they'll joke with us, Mike Dion and Sylvia Ruger, they'll say, we were the guinea pigs. You guys, the program has been perfected. And so, you know, there's a lot of confidence in doing this training. It's great because we know it's worked for, you know, so many other athletes. There's been 5 Olympians under Hugh. I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
The group began training in earnest in October with the goal of making the Olympic team in 2012, but are hoping that with the success they've had so far, perhaps Beijing isn't out of sight.
I think training's gone very well, and I feel like I really want to make a run for Olympic standard. That's really my goal. I know it is my first marathon, so all things in perspective, regardless of, like I said, regardless of the outcome, I'll definitely be excited and I'll learn so much from the experience.
Matt McInnes is also part of this innovative group coached by Hugh Cameron, but he lives and trains in Ottawa, so who better to handicap the ING Ottawa Marathon?
Definitely would be controlling your effort over the hills, especially over the Gatineau side. There are no killer hills, but certainly some that you have to moderate your effort so you're not wasting too much energy running hard up the hills and killing your legs going down the hills. So certainly moderating your effort over the first half and then attacking the second half because it's relatively flat.
McInnes staying in that Canadian pack, looking for the Canadian championship and that withering 2:14 Olympic standard here today, saying it's on the second half of this course, Michael, where these athletes will really go on the attack.
Here's a great overhead shot of the lead pack of men. Really have broken away from the rest of the field. It's comprised of about 12 to 15 people. Those pacemakers are really doing an excellent job keeping this pace on pace for about a 2:10 marathon at this point. Great effort for an early Sunday morning.
And you can see David Chariot in the yellow bib on the left of your screen, right in behind the pace setters as they move and begin to spread out. The pack was originally at 20. It's down to about 15. Here come the women now, and it's Esme Legzoui of Morocco again in the lead. And Essiez has fallen back. There she is right there. She's fallen back into third and has lost contact now with the pace set by Legzoui of Morocco. Through 14 kilometers now, and the Pacers have found a consistent pace of about a 2:09:30 marathon, as number 14 Alfredo Reyes of Guatemala has now moved up with Chariot and Matai of Kenya in behind the Pacers. Reyes looking very fresh and strong. He made the Guatemalan Olympic standard in this very race 4 years ago before Athens, and he's come back and hoping to break his national record of 2:12 and get to Beijing.
Stay with CBC after the marathon. Mark Lee and Michael Smith will continue with the Berlin Golden League. That's at 2 p.m. Eastern and on cbcsports.ca.
A little more than an hour into this ING Ottawa Marathon and approaching the halfway mark as you see the athletes spread out as they make their way across Rideau Falls. Former Ottawa City Hall in the background. The leaders now making their way downhill. Each pace has been around 3 minutes and 9 seconds. There's the split at 20K, 104.58. You like that, Michael?
We're still on sub 2:10 pace then. You can see these athletes. The second half of this race is going to flatten out. Great support from this large group of Ottawa citizens. You can see these athletes very inspired. A lot of people in attendance this early in the morning.
There are the Canadians, and they're running right now about 2 minutes behind the lead pack in this ING Ottawa Marathon. And I do notice that Itai Macharia has broken away from the Canadians. He has now left this pace and is chasing the leaders.
Well, this larger secondary group being 2 minutes behind, Macharia knew that he had to make a break for that lead pack if he wanted to improve on his personal best time. You can see the split of the second group, not quite 2 minutes slower than that lead pack.
Look at the downtown, the Chateau Laurier, as the race now makes its way towards Sussex Drive and will head towards the Prime Minister's residence and, of course, the Governor General's grounds at Rideau Hall. Just a spectacular day for running as we join the women, and there's Esme again out front and setting the pace for the women in her marathon debut. And for someone who is at the age of 31 and has spent most of her career running 10Ks, she looks very comfortable.
Esme Lagazui, an excellent 10K runner, but this is where it gets very difficult. Like you mentioned, Mark, an phenomenal 8K and 10K runner. There you can see she does look back for her concoction or solution. All of these athletes have their own specific one. You can see a bit of a flag marking hers, but she did have to break her pace and then try and get back with the group she was running with. Little break there. Not the best thing that you want to do in a transition area.
Yes, the elite runners all have their own specific water table, and you can see the little gizmo she had to identify her water bottle, but some confusion on her part as she had to stop to find her own concoction, as you put it.
Here we go, back with the lead group of men, and it is really spreading out now. A little more injection of speed yet once again.
The lead pack being led by John Atati as Moses Keegan, the other pace setter, has dropped out at 21K.
You're looking at the lead pack of women as they come by the halfway mark just outside the Embassy of Saudi Arabia. And as we told you off the top, the main story here is the withdrawal of four-time winner Ludmila Porcugina of Canada. That has opened up the door for newcomer Esme Legazawi of Morocco, as well as last year's second-place finisher Kebabush Haley of Ethiopia. When we come back, the ING Ottawa Marathon continues along the Rideau Canal.
Encouraging and appreciative spectators lining the byways of the nation's capital for this ING Ottawa Marathon. We're following one of the Canadian packs, and Tara Quinn Smith at the 20K split at 1:15:51. Looking fresh, she won the Canadian Half Marathon Championship earlier this year at 1:13:39. Do you like her pace, Michael?
That's great. It's excellent that she can be within 2 minutes of the half marathon pace, and she's only halfway there, and she does look very smooth and consistent at this point in the race. No head wobbling whatsoever. Her shoulders look relaxed. She's setting a nice pace for herself.
Along the Rideau Canal, Reyes of Guatemala continues to lead the front runners. Mite of Kenya right in behind him through 23 kilometers, running at 1:10:23 pace. 8 runners left in this lead group.
Well, you can see this lead pack is dwindling and dropping athletes as they keep moving forward. A good injection of speed around the 20K mark really shook off a few people.
Frances Bowen, number 7, also in that lead pack as we rejoin the women. And this has really become a 2-woman race. Lagzui of Morocco, followed by Haley of Kenya. And Haley staying in behind the diminutive Moroccan. Back to the canal, the leaders, and there's John Atati, 81, the pace setter, coming through 24K with Reyes and the 2 Kenyans, Chariot and Mate, flanking the leader. Atati now through 24K stops his watch and he's pulling out of the race. Now John Atati, the last pace setter, was supposed to remain in this competition through 30 kilometers. He has stopped 6 kilometers shy, and now it's been left to this group to set the pace.
These men will really have to concentrate their efforts over this next 6K. Without the help of a pace setter, it will be a little bit more difficult. The last 12 kilometers of this race from 30 to 42 is known to be the most difficult part, so they would like to have been led right to that 30K, but you can see this lead group of men making a good effort, but without a pacemaker now.
So they'll have to work together and alternate setting the pace through the back half of this race as we rejoin the Canadians. No sign of Macharia. He has left the Canadians. Matt McGuinness among the front runners of the Canadians, who are dropping back now almost 3 minutes off the lead pace set by the pacer-less lead runners, Chariot, the defending champion, included. Charles Bedley has lost touch with the Canadians now. And when you lose touch with the pace at this stage, it's almost impossible to get back, isn't it?
It's very difficult to get back. It's so advantageous to be running within a group and just concentrating your eyes on the back of someone's shoulder or neck or singlet. And that really helps you lock in and set a pace. When you're on your own, is much more difficult.
Well, the pace is beginning to suffer without Itati setting the lead through 24K down to 3:09. And you can see them looking around, and it's becoming a tactical race here as we take a look at the best performers in marathons. And is it any surprise that 70% of the top countries come from one specific area of Africa?
Just incredible. These men and women from both Kenya and Ethiopia are known to be world-class marathon runners, and you can see by that top 100 performance that they are indeed. You can see once again we have Esme Lagazui having problems with her solutions and concoctions. She's looking for her specifically, but I think she'll just have to resort to plain old water. Quite often they will have an electrolyte mixed in, but you can see that she must be frustrated having to stop on 2 occasions thus far.
So Esme throwing her water cup aside and regaining the lead, but that's twice now we've seen her with a mix-up at the elite water bottle station. The top women's marathon results, again the Kenyans, the class of the field, but the difference here, the Japanese and Chinese are in amongst the Kenyans and Ethiopians.
Well, the Japanese women have a deep and rich history of marathon running. You can see the Ethiopians, the 4th best performing country on the women's side, with 11 athletes in that top 100.
There's a look at the Canadian pack as we snake our way along Colonel By Drive in Ottawa. Let's just look how far back the Canadians are here from our helicopter vantage point from the lead pack. Moving along Colonel By Drive, approaching Hogs Back in a sharp turn here. The Canadians have now fallen, Michael, about 3 minutes or 1K off the pace.
That definitely looks like at least a kilometer mark, yes. And you can see that corner as they round it. We're getting very close to the 33K mark.
A little earlier I was mentioning about how difficult it can be financially for elite level athletes in Canada. Well, the official charity of the Ottawa Race Weekend hopes to change that. It's the Canadian Athletes Now Fund, and they're trying to raise enough money to support 80 Canadian athletes going to Beijing. One of the ways they're doing that is by raising donations for people to participate here in the race weekend. There are many more ways to contribute, however, and you can find out all about it at CanadianAthletesNow.ca.
Solomon Mola of Ethiopia has put on a surge and disintegrated the lead pack. The race is on with 9K to go. Welcome back to the ING Ottawa Marathon through 33 kilometers down the Heron Road Bridge, and look at this pressure now on the lead pack as Solomon Mola has upped the pace, and now Vincent Kiplagat of Kenya has come back onto Mola's shoulder here as they make the turn to Princess Elizabeth Drive and head towards the experimental farm in Ottawa. In 3rd place, the defending champion David Chariot. But Mola has put pressure on all the front riders, and Kiplagat, it's amazing to see him back in the lead pack. He lost contact about 5 kilometers ago.
Well, this is a real injection of speed at late stages in the race, relatively speaking. Solomon Mola, you can see him, number 12 on the left-hand side of your screen. He's only 21 years of age, and most of these very elite level marathon runners are at least in their 30s, so a very young man. Most of them hone their skills on the track for many years, but you can see this young Solomon Mola, only 21 years old, leading the way thus far.
The lead men taking water sponges there for the first time in this race, showing the effects of the heat. About 17 degrees right now as we see Tara Quinn Smith working hard with her pacers to stay in the top 3 if she can, and her husband Andrew Smith, now a solitary figure on this marathon course, as the Canadian men have really lost touch with the leaders, about a kilometer behind.
Well, Andrew Smith is really trying to pick up his pace, but again, running by yourself, extremely difficult.
Kiplagat in front of Solomon Mola right now, and Chariot trying to keep pace. And this is now a three-man race here in Ottawa as they have broken away from the pack. And it's Solomon Mola who really took the pace on his own shoulders when they lost Itati, the pace setter of Kenya, back at 24K.
Well, all three of these men look relatively fresh for being this far into the race. You can see a great overhead shot. They've really broken away from the rest of this pack. And it really has, as you mentioned, Mark, come down to a three-man race.
Here they are going through the grounds of the experimental farm in downtown Ottawa. Mola, as you mentioned, only 21 from Ethiopia. And a 10K runner as well as a marathoner. Promising young man, but coming from a formidable running nation like Ethiopia with the likes of the world record holder, Haile Gebrselassie. Then there's Kenenisa Bekele, the world record holder, an Olympic champion over 10K in the track. And Zane, I mean, where do you start?
Well, it is incredible the depth that they have at marathon and any distance over and above about 800 meters. So it's very difficult in and of itself to make the Olympic team. A lot of talent is left at home, both at Ethiopia and Kenya. These men right now look very smooth, taking advantage of a slight downhill grade coming to the very late stages of this race.
Yes, the pace beginning to slow a bit. 3:13 through 35 to 36 kilometer split in this three-man race. It'll be interesting to see what Kiplagat has got left over the final 7 kilometers of this race after putting on that huge jump to get back with the lead runners.
Well, you do have to have a strategy in place when you do make a move like that. There's not going to be a lot left in reserve. Your muscles can only store so much glycogen, and something will have to break. You can either use that up at a mid or early stage of the race or save your best for last. Again, we can see a slight grade, and these hills are wearing on these athletes in the late stages.
Francis Bowen of Kenya and Chalalemi Demi of Ethiopia, the other two runners, trying to stay in touch with the lead three, Chariot, Mola, and Kiplagat. But the gap now is 40 meters. Kiplagat, of course, third in this race 1 year ago, and really determined to take on his countryman and the defending champion, Chariot, who is 38 years of age and staying with the youngsters.
Well, Chariot, he has that great experience that he's had over a number of years on this exact course, and that can really pay dividends at late stages in the race because you'll know this course very intimately and know when you can take advantage of a little injection of speed when someone else might be distracted. One stride can make all the difference at this point.
Runners take more water as we check in with Aaron.
For 2 full days, the Ottawa race weekend really takes over this city. And for it to succeed, it relies upon the community. And they have responded. Tens of thousands of spectators will line these streets to cheer on the athletes. And I have to tell you, I ran this half marathon a few years ago, and it really is the encouragement of the crowd that helps get you through the final few kilometers. You know, some of the loudest cheers will be reserved for the growing number of 60, 70, and 80-year-old athletes doing this course. 3 men here have run the Ottawa Marathon for 34 years straight. One of them, Bill Williams, is now 65 and is still running strong.
You guys were supposed to get me in the first half when I was fresh. Okay, Bill, how are you? Statistics to get me when I'm tired.
So take a look at the elderly entries in this race, and it really is phenomenal how many older people now are taking on the marathon challenge.
Well, over 300 people at age 65 to 75, another 30 at age 76 to 80, and another longtime competitor, Dr. Howard Cohen.
34th consecutive Ottawa Marathon. John Stoddard also on the course today here in the nation's capital. Welcome back to the ING Ottawa Marathon. Through the streets of the nation's capital, all kinds of fans supporting and encouraging these runners as the leaders go through 36 kilometers in a split of 1 hour, 51 minutes, 52 seconds. And already there's a split here in the lead pack. It's Mola and Chariot now beginning to leave Kiplagat behind, and we wondered how that surge by Kiplagat to get back in the lead group would affect him, and we're beginning to see the wear on his face.
Kiplagat did indeed expend a lot of energy to try and get back with this lead pack. Matthew McGuinness still on a relatively good pace for himself.
McInnes is not only an elite marathoner, he's a radiologist here in Ottawa and is also raising money for Ottawa Hospital, as well as chasing the Canadian title here today in the nation's capital. The lead Canadian woman is Tara Quinn Smith, making her way up that tough hill on the Heron Road Bridge. And she is trying to reach the top three. The leader is Esme Legzoui of Morocco. And there she is with her pacer. You see the 2 hours 30-second bib on the pacer. He's running a pace that would take her to the finish line in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now, the course record is 2 hours 29 minutes 42 seconds. She's had a look at her clock and says that's not quick enough, that pace, so she's on her own now, chasing the course record currently held by Canada's Ludmila Korchagina.
Well, Legzoui decided upon herself to put in a little burst of speed there. She glanced at her watch and knew that she wanted to just have a little bit more effort going through the 35K mark.
The lead runners here, and it's a two-man race at this point. Solomon Mola of Ethiopia and David Chariot of Kenya, the defending champion, opening about a 20-meter gap now on Vincent Kiplagat of Kenya through 38 kilometers, and the pace is beginning to pick up. A 3:01 1-kilometer split led by Mola with about 4 kilometers to go now.
Well, that is an incredible 1K split, especially at this late stage of this race. But you can see the more experienced Chariot just glancing off the shoulder of Mola. He seems well positioned right now.
Matthew McInnes of Canada is at the 37K mark. Great inspiration from the crowd along the course here for Matthew McInnes, trying to reel in Itay Macharia, who at this point is about a minute ahead of him on the course.
Well, you can see how stretched out this field is in this very, very late stage of this race. This is where adrenaline really kicks in. This lead group of two men between Chariot and Mola, both of them looking very fresh. It'll be a very interesting final 200 meters or so to see if experience can win over youth or youth can win over experience.
Yes, Mola of Ethiopia has continued to throw surges into this race, and Chariot has responded, but Kiplagat is struggling now. There's Tara Quinn Smith, the part-time school teacher from Waterdown, Ontario, the lead Canadian woman right now in her marathon debut, getting some water through 33 kilometers. And at this point in the race, she is about 2 kilometers behind the leader, Esme Legzoui of Morocco.
Well, it's so important to get your fluids to disperse your heat, but you can see it yet again. Legzoui missed her water station. She had her specific solution that she'd like to drink. Fortunately for her, it's not too hot and humid. These conditions very good for the marathon runners.
The leaders now, Mola of Ethiopia and Chariot of Kenya, with just 2 kilometers to go in what has become a very tactical race. Kiplagat is dropping off in the distance. A 2:04:10 split through 40K. There's Matthew McInnes about 2 kilometers behind the leaders and picking up his pace. We have him right now on a pace for a personal best, and reports in the course say he is closing on Macharia, who is about a minute ahead of him. Great crowds, great support. When we come back, the finish of the ING Ottawa Marathon. ING Ottawa Marathon on CBC is brought to you by ING. Welcome back to the ING Ottawa Marathon with 1 kilometer to go, a two-man race. The youthful 21-year-old Solomon Mola of Ethiopia and the wise veteran 38-year-old David Chariot of Kenya. 1-2 now with 1 kilometer to go, and the pace red hot through 41 kilometers, 2:07:20.
Well, this is an excellent pace. Both of these men looking and glancing over at one another. Who is going to make the break first? They're both asking themselves the same question.
Very tactical race at this point, as it has been really since about the 24K mark when the last of the pacers left the competition. Matthew McInnes working hard now and has picked up his pace. He has information that Macharia is coming back to him now in the dying kilometers of this marathon. So hope for McInnes to try to be the lead Canadian, but chasing Macharia at this point. But the race for first is between Solomon Mola of Ethiopia and David Chariot of Kenya. Chariot staying just off the shoulder of Mola, who has really driven this race over the last 10 kilometers.
He really has pushed the pace. Very smooth running by both of these athletes. Excellent stride length. Very composed in the late stages of this race. Each man is going to key off one another and again asking themselves the question, who's going to make the break first?
300 meters to go. David Chariot, we know he has a big kick. That's the way he won the race a year ago here in Ottawa. And now you can see the pace beginning to pick up. Mola upping the pace through 200 meters, and now he's making a move. Mola moving ahead, and a brief gap on Chariot now. Chariot responds. 150 to go, and Chariot kicks in. David Chariot now with all kinds of speed to finish this marathon. Looking over his shoulder, there's nothing left for Mola. The veteran Chariot dashes down the straight to the finish line. One last glimpse over his shoulder, and Mola will not catch him. 3 fingers in the air. 3 titles in Ottawa for Chariot of Kenya. The defending champion prevails. 5 seconds behind is Mola, the 21-year-old from Ethiopia. But David Chariot first in 2:10:59, 23 seconds off his course record. There's Matthew McInnes of Canada through 40K and putting on a push.
National championship right there, Matt. Let's go, Matt.
Yes, the national championship within his grasp. He can now see Ita Macharia, the lead Canadian. Chariot defending his title, his 3rd victory in Ottawa in 4 years.
The 38-year-old showed extreme leg speed over that last 150 meters, a great injection of speed for his 3rd victory.
Matthew McInnes now with a sense of urgency over the last couple of kilometers of this marathon, chasing Macharia to the finish line. Right now, let's rejoin Aaron.
With me now, 3-time winner David Chariot. And David, you must enjoy this course so much to have won it on a 3rd time. Tell me about the race today.
The race today was very good. I prepared very well, and I came to defend my title. I wanted to win 3 times.
Tell me about the last 10 kilometers. You were being chased there towards the end. What was your tactic?
The tactic was to follow the leading guy. Then I sprinted. That was my tactic.
Well, congratulations, David.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back on the course now. There's the 41K marker as Matthew McInnes can now see Ita Macharia just ahead of him. At one point, he was a full minute behind. Now, it's a matter of seconds. McInnes, the Ottawa radiologist, chasing the Canadian title here. The lead woman is Esme Legzui, a solitary figure right now, running by herself, chasing the title and the course record, and she's on pace to do it right now.
Legzui is so smooth, a specialist at 10K. That speed is really paying dividends at this point in the race.
Tara Quinn Smith in the ponytail is the lead Canadian woman in 4th place right now as she makes her way around Dow's Lake in Ottawa and approaching 38 kilometers. It's her very first marathon. She's the Canadian half marathon champion and looking to add the full marathon to her credentials. Matthew McInnes now down the home straight and working hard, approaching the finish line. Ita Macharia is ahead of him. The Ottawa doctor has been chasing Macharia now for about 15 kilometers, but now he's got him in his sights. He can see the man he's chasing. Esme of Morocco trains by herself with the Moroccan national team in Rabat and in the high altitude training center of Ifrane. So she's not unaccustomed to running by herself, as she's had to do setting her own pace in this race.
She certainly has set her own pace in this race, Mark. Very smooth runner. And again, we go back to the lead Canadian. Here we can see Tara Quinn-Smith with a lot of inspiration from everyone around her.
A lot of Canadian coaching officials lining the route, offering, as you mentioned, the inspiration to these Canadian runners. Canada trying to reestablish itself as a world marathon running power. Many of these athletes, including Tara Quinn-Smith, living at Marathon House in Toronto, living rent-free, and trying to make a go of this event internationally, as Matthew McInnes feels the support of the Ottawa crowd, chasing Macharia to the finish line. Will he have enough? Is there enough road left in this race for McInnes to win the Canadian Championship? The crowd telling him Macharia is there. He can see Macharia just off camera to the right, giving everything he's got. McInnes being encouraged by this crowd. They know the circumstances. McInnes in his final flight to the finish line. Working hard. Is there enough left? In his final kick, Matthew McInnes to the line. Macharia is there, but there appears to be some confusion. Macharia, who just 3 months ago became a Canadian, doesn't get the tape. Matthew McInnes does. McInnes falls to his knees in exhaustion with a personal best time in the marathon, 2:16:59, but he was 5 seconds behind Macharia, the Congolese runner and new Canadian. He's the Canadian champion, as Esme Ligzui, the lead woman in this race, checks her watch. She's got the lead. McInnes takes the Canadian flag to the rightful champion, Macharia, in his first marathon, and a victor for Canada. Tara Quinn-Smith, the lead Canadian woman now, along the Rideau Canal with her pacemakers, is in 4th place at this stage of the race, but the lead Canadian. Now here's Aaron.
Canadian champion Geeta Macharia. And Geeta, first of all, congratulations. Can you tell me about that hard-fought battle towards the end?
Well, it was hard, I admit, but I'm so happy that I made it to the finish. That's all I was looking for. It's my first marathon, so I just wanted to finish.
To finish and to become Canadian champion, tell me what it feels to be the Canadian champion.
Oh, it feels great. You know, I felt good on the way when people were cheering, oh, keep going, Geeta, keep going, Geeta. You know, makes me feel good. I love Canada. I love Canadian people.
And Macharia is the Canadian marathon champion in his first ever marathon. Esme Ligzui of Morocco now within 100 meters of victory, all by herself, lonesome throughout most of this race and setting a terrific pace as she heads down the final straight. The 31-year-old 10K specialist moving up to the marathon for the first time in her career, and she labors with intensity to the line. First in Ottawa, and a new course record. 2 hours, 28 minutes, 43 seconds to break the old mark held by Ludmila Kochkina of Canada. Tara Quinn-Smith now with 1.5 to go, and she's in 3rd place, just ahead of the Kenyan, Hallie, off her right shoulder. Now Haley is making a move here on the shoulder of Tara Quinn-Smith as they approach the final K of this marathon. Back to Aaron.
Matthew McInnes here, just finishing. And Matthew, I know it's a bad time here, but can you tell me about your race?
It was a great race. We had an amazing pack of runners, Canadians and international guys running together, and I had a race right to the finish. Geeta Macharia, who ended up the top Canadian, just finished ahead of me, but I was gaining on him the last 5K. It was really exciting. It was so much fun, and the crowd support was great.
Tara Quinn-Smith now, also with great crowd support here in Ottawa, has dropped to 4th as Haley of Kenya made that move just ahead of the 1K point in this race and went by her. 4th place, but the lead Canadian woman is Tara Quinn-Smith of Waterdown, Ontario, in her first ever marathon. So the men's champion, Chariot, the repeat winner and 3-time champion. Geeta Macharia of Canada for the men. In the women's category, Ligzui of Morocco first in a course record, and the top Canadian, Tara Quinn-Smith of Waterdown, Ontario.
Andrew Smith and wife Tara Quinn Smith here. Tara, you just clinched the Canadian champion in the marathon. Congratulations. Tell me about your very first marathon.
Thank you. You know what? It was I was really happy with it. I think I had pretty high expectations trying to get in here and trying to maybe make the standard. But you know what? For my first debut, I was really happy with just under 2:34 today. So yeah, it's good.
So some surprises here in Ottawa as 2 new Canadian champions are crowned, and a glimpse of the future of the marathon in Canada. Mental and physical endurance lead to a new course record, and a returning favorite doesn't disappoint in claiming his 3rd title in Ottawa. Stay with CBC for more track and field. Mark Lee and Michael Smith bring you the Berlin Golden League when we come back.